Hello everybody, Dan O'Rourke here. I'm a teacher at Riverside Brookfield High School in the western suburbs of Chicago, and I'm here to talk about an instructional strategy to help your students learn about the rhetorical situation. What I have up on the screen right now is the CED course framework, and if you take a quick look, you can see that the rhetorical situation is one of the four big ideas, and essentially the rhetorical situation is 25% of what we are supposed to be teaching in our course. The problem is kids often struggle understanding the rhetorical situation, at least in my experience. So what I want to do is I want to introduce you to an instructional strategy that will provide opportunities for your students to practice with these four skills, 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B, so that they can greater understand what the rhetorical situation is. And more specifically, gain the enduring understanding that individuals write within a particular situation and make strategic writing choices based on that situation. So up until the English language class, many of our students have only been taught to read as audience. They have obviously engaged in close reading activities, but in their literature studies, oftentimes they merely read as the audience. Now, in the English language classroom for rhetorical reading, we need to teach them to read as an objective observer. That is, they have to analyze the audience. And so in order to do that, as I said, they need to be this objective observer. They need to ask or read for who is saying what to whom, when, where, and why, in order to really get deep in their rhetorical analysis. So a couple of strategies that are traditionally used in the English language classroom are, one, introducing Aristotle's Rhetorical Triangle, which is a great strategy. It shows how, here on the screen, the speaker and the audience, as well as the subject, are all interrelated, and that the speaker speaks within a particular occasion or context in order to achieve a specific purpose. So the rhetorical triangle is an excellent tool to teach the rhetorical situation. I just want to have a side note here. Exigence, that's just up there because I talk about exigence as a part of the occasion, the part of the occasion that compels the speaker to speak out. All right, so, but as great of a tool that the rhetorical triangle is to teach the rhetorical situation, I've only had limited success. As another tool that I've used, or another heuristic, is SOAPs. SOAPs is terrific at helping kids understand the rhetorical situation, but again, I've only had limited success. By the end of the year, many of my kids each year, after being introduced to both the rhetorical situation and SOAPs, and practicing with them, still don't understand how the rhetorical situation impacts writers' choices. So, a few years ago, I was reading Jennifer Fletcher's text, Teaching Arguments, and in it, she introduced me to a new technique or approach to teaching my students the rhetorical situation, and it's called Kairos analysis. All right, so what the heck is Kairos? Well, first of all, Kairos is a Greek god. He's a Greek god. He's a mythological god, and the word Kairos itself means divine time or God's time, whereas like Chronos means man's time or ordinary time, Kairos means God's time. But the significance of this is that it's about timing. It's about the perfect timing. And as you can see, he's the Greek god of opportunity. He's got 3 wings. He flies really, really fast, or he moves super fast. And anybody who he encounters only has a split second, just a split second, to seize him by that crazy lock of hair he has on his forehead, to seize him, to seize that opportunity, right? So anyhow, Kairos analysis it involves considering the importance of timing, the timing of the text, so that they can analyze it, that is the timing, and then use this lens to get a deeper understanding of the rhetorical situation in general. All right, before we look at a lesson that we can use in our class or teach in our classroom, I first wanted to show you the actual Kairos analysis template. Now this I took right out of Jennifer Fletcher's book, and this is what the Kairos analysis template looks like. All right, so it's a graphic organizer, right, that kids can use with the text. First, this first box is to write what the writer's main claim is or position, and then to consider that position according to the context of the piece. That is, specifically, the time, the place, and the social expectations. So this template helps kids consider these three very important parts of the rhetorical situation without them knowing it's the rhetorical situation. So they're going to describe what's special about the moment in time that the text was written or spoken, created. They're going to talk about the significance of the place, what makes the location unique, and they're going to talk about the relevance of the social expectations. That is, they're going to describe the behavior people consider appropriate for that occasion. They can talk about the speaker's expectations of the audience or the audience's expectations of the speaker. All right, so that's really kind of the main thrust of this activity. But in the middle here we have the language of Kairos. It's a box that it says, list any words or phrases in the text that suggest the importance of time. This is meant to help kids tune in to words that do just that, suggest the importance of time. And by paying attention to the timing of the situation, they're going to pay attention to the importance of the situation as a whole. Finally, at the bottom, we see a quick write. And if you look at the questions on the quick write, you're going to be able to discern why this is particularly useful for a useful activity for what we're trying to teach. It says, how would you describe the Kairos of the text? How do time, place, and social expectations impact the writer's argument? Do you think that the writer has chosen the best opportunity to make his or her argument? All right, so that is just a really useful tool to help your kids understand a difficult, or at least introduce them to understanding a difficult concept. And by practicing with this, they're going to gain, a much deeper understanding. Okay, so I want to now just go back to my presentation. And if you were going to use this in the classroom, here's an example of a piece you might use it with. So here's the 2015 Chavez Rhetorical Analysis passage. Now, for the rhetorical, for a time writing, it's important. This is kind of an aside too. It's important to really emphasize the need to pay close attention to the prompt. So the students, if you look at the highlighted part here, are going to learn an awful lot about the rhetorical situation just from the prompt. So you're going to find out who is speaking to whom, where, and when. So you're going to really be able to see the entire rhetorical situation just by looking at the first couple sentences of the prompt. So just coach your students about that particular point. All right. So if we look at that argument by Chavez, basically, now we're not going to have time to have you read this argument now, but this is an argument in which Chavez argues that nonviolent resistance is the most effective means of social reform, most effective means to achieve social justice. All right, so if we look at the passage, you can see I highlighted just a couple of words and phrases, and a student might do this, right, to pay attention to the importance of time. All right, so this observance of Dr. King's death, for instance, examine history, time is our ally, the poor have time. These are very direct, these are very obvious references to time, and then you have some more subtle ones, generations of poverty and powerlessness, as well as when the deep concern they have for people is frustrated and when they are faced with seemingly insurmountable odds. So here's language of time that you want kids to pay attention to in their close rhetorical reading. All right, so back to the template. Here I have a template that's filled out for this particular piece, this particular text. So like the writer's main claim, again, we said nonviolent protest is the best way to achieve fair wages and social justice for the farm workers. So what's special about the time? It's the 10th anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination. The farm workers of America are fed up with the burdens of generations of poverty and powerlessness imposed on them by the growers. What's important about the place? Or describe what's unique about the place. The article is published in a magazine of a religious organization devoted to helping those in need. And what is, how does the behavior people consider appropriate affect Chavez's choices? Well, Chavez knows his audience is sympathetic to the farm workers' cause, and he's going to write his argument accordingly. And even farm workers themselves, right? He also knows they are called to value human life and Christian charity, and he might use that in his argument as well. The audience looks to Chavez for guidance in this trying time when frustration has nearly got the best of them, and Chavez knows it. We talked about the language of Kairos already, but if we look at the quick write down here, we can, here I'll just take a quick look at it with you. The timing of Chavez's argument is especially important because it effectively evokes the memory of Martin Luther King. A champion of nonviolent resistance, MLK, serves as proof of how effective nonviolent protest can be in procuring social justice. Also because the assassination of Martin Luther King both failed to stem the tide of the civil rights movement and instead ironically furthered its cause by making its leader a revered martyr, Chavez's timing amplifies the senselessness and ineffectiveness of violence. By writing for a religious magazine, Chavez knows he can tap into his audience's Christian values as common ground upon which to build his argument against violent rebellion. I think Chavez chose the most opportune time and place to encourage these laborers to embrace nonviolent protest as the most effective means of achieving social justice. All right, so that is an example of how you could use this instructional tool in your classroom for a text, that you might use anyhow in this class. All right, so let me go back to our presentation and say, please use this use this several times in your classroom. The Kairos quick write helps students consider the timing of the argument, right? You just heard that. And it can help them consider how well suited the writer's choices were or are for that particular situation, time, place, and audience in which he or she is writing. Kairos analysis helps students conduct a deeper, more sophisticated analysis of the text. So there's our little Kairos lesson. Hopefully you guys find that useful and you can use that in your classroom. Thanks.